Today on The Rock.
We learn about earthquakes and what to do in the event of one.
Next, we take an inside look into preparation for homecoming week by the ASB officers.
Finally, we'll finish the day by interviewing some of our graduated alumni on how they feel about life here in Anacortes.
All that coming up on this week's edition of The Rock.
Three, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome back, AHS, to our second installment of The Rock.
I'm Amelia Rury.
And I'm Miranda Ledger.
We've got a great show for you this week with lots of interesting stories. But I think we're going to start off today by focusing on earthquakes and earthquake safety.
On the 19th of September, the city of Puebla, Mexico was struck by a magnitude 7.1 earthquake that shook the city for an entire minute, killing 363 people.
Events like this remind us that tragedy can happen any day at any time.
Here's John Harrison with a piece about how we can protect ourselves in the event of a natural disaster.
Here in the Pacific Northwest, students like you and I are under the assumption that we're safe from natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes. What a lot of people don't know is that we live on the Cascadia fault line, which makes us more susceptible to larger and more frequent earthquakes. To learn more about Washington's seismic situation, we contacted Bill Steele, the Director of Outreach at the Pacific Northwest Seismology Network, located in Seattle.
An earthquake occurs when enough strain builds up that it exceeds the ability of friction and the rock to handle it. They will break and slide against each other to slip and relieve the strain, and that causes an earthquake.
Should people be more prepared for the event of large-scale earthquakes?
Yeah, absolutely, for any earthquake or any disaster. See, that's the wonderful thing about having an emergency plan in your family and with your friends and your neighborhood. No matter what the disaster or problem is, it could be a wildfire, it could be an ice storm, it could be a windstorm that takes down a lot of trees and knocks out the power for weeks. It can be any number of things that you're going to have to deal with. And having an emergency plan, having supplies to be on your own and shelter in place for a week or two is always a great thing.
The construction of the new high school has given the school district an opportunity to create a building that's safer than before. A dedicated team of workers have been designing and constructing the new high school to be safer for both students and staff members. Engineer Tim Johnson has been working on the structure of the new high school under Forma Construction, the company contracted to work on Rice Field last year, and the new school on War Memorial Field.
The entire skeleton, the steel skeleton, has been very carefully engineered to take into account all of the current technology to allow it to absorb any seismic event. Technology and our understanding of seismic events and how to deal with them has progressed over the years, and so I think that our engineers who have had a hand in designing this school have given everything that we know in the design of how the steel will respond to any major seismic events.
To make sure that students are fully aware of the process they need to go through during an earthquake, Mike Barabalt has established drills to keep students safe during a disaster.
The earthquake drill is kind of simple. It's just kind of 3 steps: is drop, cover, and hold on. And the idea is that you just get low to the ground, get underneath a sturdy object, a table, a desk, and then hold on until the shaking stops.
For The Rock at Anacortes High School, I'm John Harrison.
A pretty eye-opening segment there, Miranda, and a good reminder that the best defense against a dangerous event is preparation.
Yes, indeed it is. Now, while we're on the topic of preparation, let's talk about homecoming.
Last week, we ran a story about the origins and meaning of the homecoming tradition.
This week, we have a follow-up story.
The Anacortes ASB officers have been preparing for this week since the start of the school year, and now it's in full swing.
Reporters Georgia Stoltz and Abby Davis interviewed these officers about the work they've done to make this week happen.
Homecoming is one of the busiest weeks of the year. There are countless events and activities planned by the leadership class that students can participate in. How much is the leadership class involved in homecoming?
Leadership class has certain committees for different events or activities throughout the week, and we tell them to plan all those activities, get people there, get information out, communicate, and my job is to basically oversee all those committees and make sure that things are running smoothly.
When did you start planning for homecoming?
We had a little late start this year just because we started, everything was just so early, but we tend to start a month and a half in advance of homecoming.
What are the biggest challenges?
Over-dramatization on the students' part. I mean, there's not a lot of issues. We used to spend way too many hours at this, but we've cut that down. And it's a self-created problem if there are some. Because 99% of the people just have fun and go with it and enjoy the week.
What goes into planning homecoming?
A lot goes into planning. A lot of prep, a lot of talking to people, seeing what they can do, what they can't do, getting locations for things like float building, making sure that the classes know what's going on, getting information to the classes, and a big thing is communication.
What's your favorite part about homecoming?
I just think the energy of it. And I mean, the moment I like the best is Friday, right before the assembly, because we've done all the work, and to see a bunch of people who joined a class less than a month ago and now put on this big event on their own, it's really rewarding to see.
The homecoming week, all the spirit days.
I'd say my favorite part about homecoming is the involvement and us coming together as a school. And yes, even though we're competing, between the classes, we all come together and we can all have a good time.
As a reminder to all students, homecoming is this Saturday, and if you don't have tickets yet, you can buy them from the ASB window for $20 or $25 at the door.
Since last week, we learned that homecoming is a celebration of returning alumni. It seems only right that our next segment is about just that.
Here's Lincoln Gilden and Andrew Agagard with Georgia Stoltz on a story about some of our beloved alumni who've decided to stick around in our little town.
Many of us are eager to leave after high school, with dreams of escaping this boring town and making something bigger out of ourselves. Anacortes is a top tourist destination in the Pacific Northwest, and there are more people vying to get into this place than there are trying to leave. So we are faced with the question of why anyone would want to leave. We took the time to ask some notable Anacortes High School alumni the same question, and, more importantly, what drew them back to their hometown.
When we started off in business, we were in Bellingham. When I graduated from high school, like many kids, the first thing I wanted to do was get out of Anacortes. I grew up here, it's not a big town, and I felt like I wanted to leave. By leaving, I found out how amazing Fidalgo Island and Anacortes is.
So I didn't go too far away, but Seattle area, and I came back. I think the Anacortes community itself is just from the first day that I started teaching, I think that was my biggest thing, was that, man, I love the students here.
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to come back here. This feels like home to me. I never felt, when I went to college in Tennessee, I never felt like that was home. I had every intention of coming back here. I love this area. I love being on Fidalgo Island, being close to the water, close to the mountains. Raising my kids here, having that same experience. It's just been a really good community.
So for me personally, I have a lot of roots here. So roots include, family. My mom is still here in town. My brother, a lot of cousins. So that's one factor.
I had such a positive childhood here. I was involved with athletics and the schools. I just loved my teachers and the school system. I just had a really positive childhood, so just coming back wanting that for my kids.
We started off our first company in Bellingham, and when we shifted from sport fishing base to whale watching base, it was really a business opportunity, not the fact that we wanted to come back to Anacortes. There was not any boat-based whale watching tours here when we started, and that was in 1996. To be able to work in the town I grew up in was pretty special. I don't regret it ever.
It's a natural feeling for people to desire change. We all need the chance to explore new things and gain new experiences in the real world. Success might not be as far from home as you'd expect. If you're questioning what you're going to do after high school, take a moment and look around you. Your future may be closer than you think.
Well, that wraps up our show for today.
If you couldn't catch the entire broadcast, be sure to check us out on youtube.com/AHSlive for a full recording of today's show.
Also, make sure to contact us at therock@hsd103.org if you have any suggestions for future shows. We're always happy to hear your input.
Next week, we'll be back with another fantastic show for you guys. But until then,
from our rock to yours, have a great day, AHS.
I said you tub.
You tub.